Boy, it sure has been a heck of a tech month. We have talked about some really interesting topics this month. Man alive. Talked about esports, ecosystem opportunities for veterans and military family members, which was really cool. We've talked about cybersecurity compliance and how that is becoming a facet of landing high profile, big money DoD and state level government contracts, federal and state level contracts and DoD contracts, like crazy stuff. Really informative stuff. I've learned a lot. That's something I love about this job. I get to ask smart people questions about things that they do, and I get to learn cool stuff and talk to cool people. And today is going to be no exception. Bryan Sevener is a friend of ours, has been a friend of our organization for a long time. He's the founder of Valortech. We can get into all that stuff. And we are overarchingly today talking about how things that are happening around the world, and in particular the war in Ukraine, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and that conflict there, how that is impacting the cybersecurity world. And this is a guy, veteran, I might add, who is in the trenches doing this, defending us and businesses against cybersecurity threats on the daily. He is boots on the ground, frontline defender. And he's helping other people shore up their defenses as well. This guy knows his stuff. But before we get into that, just briefly, I really want to touch on his entrepreneurial journey. Because as a businessman, Bryan's been absolutely killing it out there. I feel like I haven't talked to him in like a year and a half just because he's been so darn busy, which is a good problem to have when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, busy isn't not like busybody busy, but like he's got business. So I want to talk about his journey for a bit because that's going to be very, I think, informational and inspiring. But also, we'll kind of snake it on into the state of his world right now and the things that we may not think have a correlation that are impacting our world from a tech and a cybersecurity standpoint, and things that we need to be aware of as consumers, as business owners, as professionals. We're going to bring the thunder here as we close out Tech Month with some pretty valuable information. Looking forward to getting into it right after this. I still think hands down my favorite part of that video is the right-hand side where our president and CEO, Saul Newton, is petting a llama. And that's not an unrelated thing. For those of you that don't know, it was last summer already. We were traveling throughout the state visiting business owners who are members of the chamber. And one of them is Frost Farm Alpacas in the middle of smack dab of Wisconsin. And we visited and we stopped in and we bought a whole bunch of cool alpaca stuff from their farm store. And we got to meet the alpacas. It was awesome. See, and that's what we do. You know, we are housed, we are headquartered in Milwaukee, but we serve the whole state and not just metropolitan areas. Yeah, we serve Milwaukee, of course. That's where we started. We serve Madison in a hands-on, face-to-face, boots on the ground capacity. Green Bay, as far as Eau Claire, we've gone as far north and east as Altoona. And we're continuing to lay out our plans and groundwork to pound the pavement so we can provide that face-to-face service in addition to remote, support throughout the state. But I digress. I'm a fan of the chamber. I got to throw that out there. Ladies and gentlemen, very happy to introduce our good friend, Bryan Sevener. What's up, dude?
How's it going, dude? How you been?
Good. Was that was that an accurate intro? Did it get you pumped up? Was it the video? Was it the alpaca part of the video? Talk to me.
Well, it was kind of funny when I saw that little snippet in that, and I was thinking the same thing. Like, that's Saul petting an alpaca.
It is,
and I was actually thinking it should have been a goat.
It's a goat because Saul is.
Because you could say that he is the goat. Then
he is the greatest of all time. And yeah, man. So I want to dive right in because I feel like there's a lot of stuff to talk about. You are currently the founder, CEO, the head, MFIC, in charge of Valortech.
Yes, and
How
I
did you?
am
Go ahead.
also a college professor at Lakeland University.
How do you like that? Probably talking about cybersecurity stuff.
Yeah, I run the majority of that cybersecurity program that's being built up there. So
Outstanding.
it's
So what
pretty
brought you
cool.
there? Connect the dots for us. So you were a service member. Did you do IT and tech stuff and cyber defense? And okay, so how did you get from there to here?
It's kind of weird. Like it's an interesting journey. I grew up in a very unique household. My dad was an electrical engineer, and I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. And so you're talking very early, computers, right? Long before they were even networked per se. At least networked in, as we know it right now. But so I grew up as a five, about five, give or take. I was, playing games on like an old, I want to say like an old Commodore 64. And then, my first like real PC was an Intel 386. So we're talking very, very
Ooh.
old,
I
old
had a
tech here.
286 before that, just so you know.
Nice. And this is back in the day when you could just upgrade the PC to a 486. And you're like, wow, so much
Oh
power.
man, yeah, it was groundbreaking. Literally groundbreaking because the PC weighed 475 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey-o.
you needed a forklift to move it,
Yeah.
right? But on top of that, I grew up on a small farm outside of Sheboygan, but with a dad that was an electrical engineer. So I got kind of this, and he was a unique individual as well. He was also a tool and die maker. So I had this upbringing in tech, tool and die making, so manufacturing, and it was an active tool and die shop. And farming. So I got this wide breadth of exposure to different
Hmm.
things. And early on, I just, I found an interest in tech in one way, shape, or form. Did the typical high school stuff. I was not some A student. I was a B and C student, getting in trouble, doing things that you do in the back 40 with a bottle of Jameson or Jack Daniels that you smuggled from your dad's cabinet.
Why do I totally believe that. I totally believe that.
You get done with football on a Friday and, let's go hit up the back 40 and throw up a bonfire, right? So
Mhm.
that was my upbringing. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was a lot of fun. And then fast forward to about 2003, I lost my dad to a heart attack unexpectedly. And
Oh,
I
man.
was struggling at the time. I was already in the military. I was on active duty. I really wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do in life, but that kind of catapulted me into kind of the tech area. Interesting
Hmm.
little tidbit is this is kind of at the early-ish stages of e-cycling, and eBay was coming up. And I remember going on eBay and seeing a bunch of like old used hardware for sale, and I
Mhm.
was like, oh, pennies. I got curious and I decided that, you know what, this is kind of the whole beginning of like, I'll tie into the entrepreneurism here in a second. I got into that, and I started buying for a penny, selling for $1. So I would get hardware and flip it for $1, and I was making some pretty good money.
Mhm.
The real entrepreneurism kind of started even earlier, kind of going back to when I was about 5. My dad used to make these little circuit boards,
Mhm.
and I was 5 or 6, give or take, and I used to solder those circuit boards by hand. I used to
Mhm.
get $1 a board. So by the time I want to say 7, I had about $700 in the bank already.
Nice.
So the entrepreneurism is always there. So
Mhm.
fast forward again, early 2000s, I'm in the military, active duty. I thoroughly tick off a couple of people that I shouldn't have ticked off because I had shipments of computers coming in the base when, here I am, a little, mosquito wing private, and doing really
They probably
stupid
thought
things.
that looked a little bit suspicious, I'm guessing, just a tad.
The CSM that caught me wasn't real thrilled with me, but
Okay.
I lived through all that. And so fast forward, I did my time, I got off of active duty, went National Guard.
So just to clarify, did your time as in you completed your tenure with the military, not did your time as in you went to jail for the computer parts thing?
No.
Okay.
I
want to make
thankfully
sure
have
there wasn't any
avoided jail.
confusion. Yeah.
I've thankfully avoided prison and jail time to this point. I'm kind of
That's
hoping
good.
to keep that trend going. But the so I did my time in the service. I went, got out, active duty, got out, went National Guard. And that's kind of really where I started my career. I had gotten my bachelor's degree in information systems management when I was active duty. I got out. It wasn't until about 2014 where I started one of my master's degrees. I got my a master's in finance. Then I went on to finish a master's in accounting and then a master's in international business. Why I picked 3? Why not?
3 master's degrees?
Yeah.
Good for you.
And now top it off, I'm also a PhD student at Capella University out in Minnesota.
Be a doctor. I love it.
No, I hate labels like that so much. But so I don't know. I've just always kind of liked it. I was working in IT. I was an infrastructure engineer for another local, bigger, IT firm. They're not. I think, they got bought out. They're no longer around. But cut my teeth in there for till about 2016, give or take. And that's kind of right where the ransomwares and whatnot were starting to kind of pick up some steam. And I just saw that as kind of being the future for security with our clients. And I completely kind of changed the approach that we were doing, wrote a whole business plan to it. And when I presented it to the management, they basically told me, "You don't know what you're talking about. Sit down and just do your job." Kind of a really bad thing to say to a guy like me. So started, creating some waves a little bit because I was pretty confident in what I, was putting together. HR eventually told me to stop it or they're going to take action. Well, they took action and fired me. And I started Valortech about, 3 months later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just snowballing ever since.
It took a couple of years. It was not an easy road. I did this.
It never is,
I didn't take any kind of investment money. I used what money I had in savings to get. I bootstrapped this to the nth degree. Mm-hmm. And there are days where I was contemplating just what I was going to do, how I was going to make the bills. Perseverance. If I didn't have the military background and just that get shit done kind of ad. Can I swear on here? Keep it mild. All right.
Yeah.
Keep it mild.
You did, and there's nothing we can do about it. So
I won't go as far. I won't go full infantry grunt.
It's okay. Everybody. We checked the button on YouTube that says this is not for kids.
Probably safe when you have.
We do that just because would this pop up on the YouTube Kids app and a kid would be like, "Oh, I want to learn about cybersecurity as it pertains to world events." Probably not. So we just save everybody the trouble and we click no, not for kids. So you're probably okay.
Let me know. I'm curious.
You're fine.
But perseverance. You had to persevere. There was no other way around it. And went through a lot of trying times. We really got it took about 3 years for us to really get our footing. And it was one phone call when I was at my lowest that changed everything. It was just, I normally don't pick up my phone if it's after hours. Especially when it's late after hours,
right?
And especially numbers I'm not really familiar with. Mm-hmm. I just so happened to pick up this phone call, and it launched Valor into. That was just one stepping stone of many that launched us to where we are today, and we're doing very well. We've seen very significant growth. We've hit triple-digit growth in many many years now. We're
And
doing
what
really
you're
well.
doing, though, just to clarify for people who aren't familiar with that, it's cybersecurity support for business, right?
Yeah, that's one aspect of what we do. We initially started out as just your typical MSP, where we're just doing and providing managed services, your desktop support and stuff. But we really kind of we took a different approach to that, and we really layer on a MSSP approach to our MSP program. So everything we do is geared towards a security focused approach. You can say you want desktop support. Well, that's great, but we are going to be doing a deep dive into what technologies you're using, because we are. We really do stay on top of technology a lot more than what your average IT expert does. That's part of our organization. And so as we take that security first approach and apply that to our clients and prospective clients, we really do start showcasing a lot of what the gaps are. One of the things we kind of really do well is that, because not one size doesn't fit all, we really have to do a deep dive into what you actually do as a company, how you operate, what technologies you currently utilize to generate your revenue.
Hmm.
um because all of those have different security issues that are associated with them, and
Sure.
understanding that really helps us cater and adjust our approach to your infrastructure.
So I mentioned at the beginning that we were going to be talking about, the defense and the cybersecurity angle of what you do, and obviously you have a very deep knowledge and understanding. You mentioned being continuously aware of changing trends in cybersecurity is really, I mean, that's the name of the game. It's always changing because the aggressors and the people who are attacking are always trying to find new ways and new vulnerabilities and new ways to new weaknesses to exploit. And uh, but there are certain current events that may seem far removed from cybersecurity that aren't. And this is something we talked about on the front end before we went live. But in particular, the war in Ukraine right now, Russia and Ukraine, that conflict is having an impact in your ecosystem. And I can't, being a novice, I don't know what I'm talking about. I can't for the life of me link up the relationship between cybersecurity defense for a small business in Wisconsin and the war in Ukraine. But from what I understand, from what you've said, those global issues reverberate in the cybersecurity world. Can you connect those dots for us?
Well, we live in a very highly connected world. You can't cross the street without having the ability to access something across the globe, right? So,
Mhm.
because of that connectivity, that basically means that anybody can get access to anything from anywhere. I don't need to be sitting next to you to start trying to get access to your bank account, or trying to turn off the lights on your Google smart home. um that's While we enjoy the connectivity,
Mhm.
that also allows nefarious actors to attempt to gain access to you. um Anybody that's been in business or has done business or even works even remotely, has any kind of remote interest in the space, will understand um, that your information is not important to the criminal; it's important to you. And
Mhm.
they don't care what's in there. They just know that information is really important to you, and you're gonna want to get you're gonna want to have your information back. And if they can get access to the things that can mitigate that risk, i.e., backups and whatnot, they're going to remove those, and you're going to be stuck paying whatever they tell you you're going to have to pay if you want your important information back. So,
Hmm.
because of that connectivity, it just gives those nefarious actors a lot more access to you and well, the world.
So so are you saying that due to the conflict, there are people who are more likely now to try to scam people out of money or to do
Well,
it in a different way?
well, your typical attack, your typical attack, your biggest threats, kind of the top 5 threats: phishing attacks, malware, ransomware, your weak passwords, insider threats. Those have been around for quite a while now, but um, they're being exploited a lot more now, and because cybersecurity and the threats that you're facing change all the time, you're also seeing the rise of new type of attacks. I'm sure everyone's received a spam SMS, right? Well, it's
Mhm.
actually called smishing, and
Lovely.
yeah,
Smishing.
right, smishing. I don't know who coined these terms, but
Yeah, we gotta find whoever came up with smishing and beat them up.
smishing. But it's the rise of SMS based phishing attacks.
Mhm.
So as you're learning to protect yourself, and more of the common individual that's not in this area is starting to understand how these things work, criminals are changing their attacks as well. So yeah, we can talk about the Russia and Ukraine and how that affects things, but it doesn't help when you start either, to politicians out there, I would say be careful what you put out in the ether, because you, why draw unnecessary attention to yourself? And now, granted, us helping Ukraine definitely makes, doesn't help us in our relationship with Russia in any way, shape, or form. They're us. It's a complicated world. This is such a deep. There's such a depth to the complexities of these things that you could really go down a rabbit hole. I'm trying hard to stay away from that rabbit hole.
Sure.
But you should be proactive in preventing these kinds of things from happening to you. Being smart, complicated passwords, things along those lines.
But I
But
suppose, I
also
mean,
just
with a lot of money being, I think I get what you're saying, like with a lot of money being filtered into into Ukraine, there are always, in every conflict anywhere where there is a public opinion, political figures are going to try to get on whatever more favorable side they can get on. And if their communications are compromised, it can make us look bad. It could compromise their campaigns. It could, spreading misinformation could sway public opinion and make it less politically advantageous for me to support somebody financially, for us to support like Ukraine financially. If that became less popular all of a sudden, maybe there wouldn't be the political will to do it and we wouldn't be doing the right thing over there.
Well, tying that back to like the connected world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can help Ukraine and therefore tick off Russia even more. Again, we don't need to be sitting next to each other to start attacking the other one. Because of that connected world, we have access to anything and everything. It can be found, right? So again, when you start provoking other nations, Russia's very good when it comes to the cybersecurity stuff. They're the same, China as well. So when you start, when you start helping the opposing faction to an enemy, they're going to come after you, especially in that cybersecurity realm. They're going to go after your infrastructure. They're going to go after your critical assets. They're going to increase their attacks on in your country.
Should they be busy with their own war though?
People have a lot of free time.
Yeah. But I mean, and even before the conflict in Ukraine, Russia was pretty much nonstop in our business, and maybe not necessarily cybersecurity attacks. I don't know. I don't know the I know that they had warehouses full of people just basically spreading misinformation to try to get all of us to hate each other on
Misinformation
Facebook.
campaigns are a big thing too. I think their big group over there is called Conti, and Conti's a very pro-Russia criminal organization, cyber criminal organization. And they ramp up their attacks against US allies, anybody that's helping Ukraine. And this stuff has been going on for ages now, but it just gets ramped up even further. There's more dedication to the cause, and all that stuff. The more you saber rattled and the more you draw attention to yourself, it goes both ways. I'm pretty confident of that. I'm sure we're not,
we're
not innocent in all of this.
So how has the ecosystem changed over the last, because you've been, like I said, you frontline defender of this sort of thing for the last few years in particular, and in an increasing fashion. How is it different now than it was a year or 2 years or 3 years ago?
Well, go back even a little further, like 5 years ago. You could just have a regular antivirus and you'd be generally okay, right?
Even as a business owner, are you saying?
Like as a business, I'm speaking more on the business owner side of things. And some of this stuff does trickle down to the consumer. Talking about consumer, always make sure you have an antivirus on your computer. Make sure you have multi-factor authentication. Use different passwords for accessing of different logins, and be vigilant. Be very careful about clicking links and opening PDFs and anything along those lines. Just be vigilant, and your risk does go down a little bit. Anybody that ever comes to you and tells you that they can 100% guarantee that you'll never be crypto locked or held for ransom or any of that stuff is completely full of baloney.
Right. That's not a thing you can guarantee.
You can get, the only thing you can guarantee is that at some point in your life you will be ransomware. That's probably the only guarantee I'd ever give you.
Right.
But it's really critical, especially with business owners, to have and work with organizations like ours that cater the security approach to your organization, which is very different than what it used to be even 5 or 6 years ago, where you could just have a simple antivirus, a firewall, and call it good. Well, now the multi-layer approach is really critical to mitigating that risk to as far as you possibly can, and always ensuring you have really good backups of all of your information. That's follow the 3-2-1-1 rule, and that's three copies of your data, 2 different locations, 1 in different media, 1 completely offline.
Say that one more time, a little bit slower. I think that's valuable.
So the old adage of 3-2-1, it used to be 3 copies of your data, 2 locations, 1 on different media. The new adage now is, because hackers have increased the sophistication into those, in mitigating that risk or deleting those backups, is now a 3-2-1-1 rule. 3 copies of your data, 2 different locations, 1 on different media, and 1 of those copies completely offline and separated from your environment. That way there is no access. There's virtually no way for that hacker to get access into that data, guaranteeing that you can restore your information when you are ultimately held for ransom.
When you inevitably, so you're saying as a business owner, you need to prepare for when you are subjected to a ransomware attack.
Yeah, it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And I get migraines sometimes when I hear business owners saying, well, it'll never happen to me. It will. It absolutely will. If your day hasn't happened yet, it will eventually come. And just, I really hope when you need help, we'll be here to help you.
Right on. And it took me a minute. Ignore the first link I put on the banner on the bottom. I was trying
It's
to,
all good.
but yeah, valortech.io is the website you can see
Yes.
scrolling across the bottom. So what sort of stuff do you have coming up? And obviously you can't get too deep in the weeds because this is like, you're a cyber defender. But what does the future hold for you, or what do you predict being the future? Is Web3 and blockchain and wallet verification stuff? Are you preparing for that transition? What does the future hold for you?
Cybersecurity is not going anywhere.
Right.
Even talking to some of the contacts I have in the insurance industry, um, they're planning for this only to get worse. And even through the pandemic and the subsequent years since then, they've seen nothing but a huge increase in that, by an exponential fold. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. The attacks are going to get more complicated. Their approach to getting your data is going to be more complicated. As new technologies come on board, they will find ways of countering that. And you have good cyber warriors like my team at Valor that are very active in staying ahead of those curves. And as they change, we're going to change along with that. And I don't care about the technology coming out because we'll adapt, and we'll be there to protect whatever comes down the pipeline in terms of new technology.
So in the future, every company, small business or not, should plan for a monthly expense to have a company like yours to implement safety procedures and processes and monitor and protect.
Absolutely. I understand that really small businesses, they're cash strapped and everything else. At a minimum, the odds are you have somebody that works in cybersecurity, and there is a ton of different material or different free materials out there for you to read on how to protect yourself at a baseline level. Strongly encourage everybody to do their research, do some education. And when you get to a size where you do have the ability to budget for some aspects of security, I strongly recommend starting to engage early on with a trusted advisor, whether it's Valortech or any number of other good cybersecurity experts out there, just to have that little, just get that smidgen of time and effort put into place to keep you secure.
Right on. So how can somebody, if they want to learn more from you, learn more about Valortech, learn more about just how to be minimally protected, how do they get in touch?
Well, there's a couple different ways. You can reach out to me on valortech.io. That's my Valortech website. You can email me. I'll make sure that Am can put my email out there. I keep that very available for anybody. There's also two other new things that I'm launching very soon. I'm launching my own personal website. I have a beta version up. I will also give that to you, Adam. And on there, I will be offering a lot of free advice, a lot of links to products that I have personally used, personally vetted out, that I think are best of breed in the industry. Lots of free material for you to read, lots of free resources that you can get access to.
Nice.
And obviously, we are also building what we're calling the Tech on Tap Nation, which I will give you a link to as well. That website's in beta. We're about to launch in probably the next week or two here. But that is a actual community based around tap, being beer, being Wisconsin, of course.
Sure.
And tech, where we will actually be bringing in-person meetings or in-person invites. Anybody can attend these, where we will be bringing vendors in, letting them to showcase their technologies, them showcase their market expertise. And we are currently producing our podcast where we will actually have vendor spotlights and be doing the same thing, and allow any vendor that wants to showcase their ability to do it to a much greater audience. All of this stuff is going to be launching very, very soon, probably within the next, probably less than a month.
Right on, man. Well, yeah, definitely share those links, and I will put them in the show notes when the audio version of this comes out. Sure to appreciate your time, man. Thank you for all that you do to keep everybody safe, and for sharing this information with everybody, man. It's good stuff.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It's great catching up with you. And
Yeah, man.
I know life's been pretty busy, but I'll eventually get down to you guys and
there you go.
Visit you. We'll catch up. We'll grab a beer.
Works for me. I'll tell you what, hang on the line for just a minute. I'll touch base with you afterwards. There you have it, folks. Look, one thing that stuck out to me is, especially for a small business, he mentioned, I know you're cash strapped, but this is an important line item. You know what's more expensive than a monthly fee of having somebody monitor your stuff is a ransomware attack. And it's one of those things where you don't need it until you need it, and when you need it, it's too late. So an ounce of prevention, right? Best to protect yourself, and that's 2 weeks in a row that we've talked about the necessity to protect yourself from from a personal level, as a consumer, as a business owner, as a professional, as a corporate entity. All of those things, you have to be protected, and either you have staff protecting you, like actively protecting you, or you have a team like Bryan's team at Valortech who is doing that defense. If for a corporate entity standpoint, that's as important as the burly person with the black sunglasses and the little earpiece that protects, does security at your building and lets people in and out. It's just as important, like equal importance. Because, man alive, you could be buried as a small business owner. One ransomware attack, and they don't care. None of those people care. They want to take things from you, and they want to take stuff that they didn't earn, and they want to make their living doing that. And they don't care if your business fails, if you go bankrupt. They don't care. And it stinks. But we got to defend yourself. We need to defend ourselves. We have to be proactive about it, because being reactive when it comes to defense, physical, cyber, whatever, being reactive is expensive. So proactivity line item in the cybersecurity thing, put it on there. I hate for you to pay the price. Happy Tech Month, everybody. Next month is Agriculture Month. We're going to bring the thunder. Looking forward to it. See you next week.